Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Pastor E Speaks. I will be discussing a very fundamental and important topic that I feel needs to be discussed. The Lord put this in my mind some time ago, and I feel this has to be shared. A lot of people, before getting into relationships, you try to evaluate your spouse or your partner, just to see what you're good at or what they're capable of doing and stuff like that. And recently there was this buzz on her, and everybody kind of flared up, where a particular celebrity was, I think she went for an event and she was speaking about what it takes to be a virtuous woman. And there was just a lot of clapbacks, a lot of criticism. And I was like, what's the buzz about? And people actually didn't listen or watch the full clip of our interview or event before they just jumped to conclusion. But that is just an aside. Um, I was just in my own self, doing my own business, and this just dropped in my spirit. How well do you know your spouse? And I was like, okay. And then the parable of the talents just dropped on me. The parable of the talent is recorded in the Bible in Matthew chapter 25, from verse 14 to verse 16. I'll just read it briefly and then I'll explain to you my point and where I'm getting at. The Matthew 25 was trying to explain about the kingdom of God and how it is likened to so many parables. The parable of the 10 virgins, you see that in the early chapter of Matthew 25. But the parable of the talents, with regards to our topic today, is what we're discussing in Matthew chapter 25 from verse 14. It says, "For it is just like a man about to go on a journey. He called his own servants and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2 talents, and to another 1 talent, depending on each one's ability. Then he went on a journey immediately." Now, that parable said he gave one 5 talents, he gave one 2 talents, he gave one 1 talent. But the real message is in the later part of that verse, depending on each one's ability. Now, it just got me think that a lot of people go into relationships without even knowing what their spouse, partners are capable of doing. A lot of people, if you ask them, what is your spouse's ability, or what is this person good at, they probably would not have a coherent answer to that. They probably be like, maybe you can do this or that. And I realized that, or it dawned on me that with this passage here, God gives each and every one of us ability, talents, gifts, according to what we can both handle. God knows what your abilities are. God knows what your strengths are because He created us in the first place. So every relationship, everyone in a relationship is endowed with talent based on their ability. Now, for some relationships, for some homes, it's very natural that the man is the one with the most talent. I mean, the husband is the breadwinner, is the spiritual leader, is the Abraham of the house, is the Joshua of the house, he knows how to, is the visionary, is the leader, is the one that sees, receives the mind of God for the family. And in most relationships like that, things work out just well. But sometimes it's usually not like that. And there seems to be a bit of a friction where the reverse is the case, where the woman is the one that has much more endowed on her. So she is the one in the business place, she's the one in ministry, She's the one doing a lot of things that people can see. And most times you don't even see the husband, or you don't see what the husband is doing. The woman is just the one at the forefront. It doesn't mean that the man is not doing anything. It just means that maybe the woman is endowed with more in that relationship. And if we read that passage later, when the master came out back, we can see that the master said the same thing to the one that has both the 5 talents and the 2 talents, because each of them produced 100% more based on their ability that they were given. So the one with the 5 traded with it and produced 5 more results, making 10. The one with 2 talents traded with it and produced 2 more results. And at the end of that parable, the master said the same thing to them: Welcome, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in a little, much more will be given. I'm not even going to emphasize or focus on the one that did not do anything, because that is not the message here. But it just got me thinking that if we understand what our partner has been given to them by God, even before we enter into a relationship with them, or while in the relationship, God gives us the wisdom to be able to understand what their tolerance level is, or what they can bear, or what their abilities are. Then it would reduce a lot of friction that we have or experience in relationships. So most people struggle with things that have been endowed naturally with their spouse, and that's where you kind of have competition. A woman can have ability to do a lot of businesses and make money. It's very possible that this woman is just gifted with so many business ideas. She knows how to generate income. She knows how to bring in money to the family. She knows of ways and ways and ways that, she can do so many things. And she doesn't see it as a burden. She just sees it as her functioning in her element. A man might not have the ability to do all of that. A man might just have the ability to maybe provide support, to provide stability. Not like he's also not going to have something that is doing in terms of income or in terms of a job, but maybe he's just good at one job. Maybe it's 9 to 5, or maybe he has one business, and maybe that's all he knows how to do part time. But a woman can really do maybe so many things: do this business, do this thing, do this, that. Now, in some homes, you have that happening where the woman is the one that is all about that, doing all of this thing. Sometimes there are frictions when it looks like the man is not doing anything. And this would only become a problem when you don't understand what has been naturally endowed, or what comes natural to this person. What has God endowed my spouse with? What ability has God given to my spouse that I just need to lean on as a partner? I don't have to struggle. I don't have to compete. Now, usually a lot of women are doing so well right now, and sometimes we don't even see their men. And it is okay when they understand that it naturally comes to them. They're not trying to compete with their man. They're not trying to prove a point. And you will see it in the kind of things and businesses that they do. They're actually leading so many courses, and they're successful at that. And they have the full backing of their spouse. They have the full backing of their partners. Now, everybody needs at some point, if you haven't gotten to that point, you need to understand this and find the balance in your own. Otherwise, there will be friction. If I don't understand what comes naturally to my husband in a home, if I don't understand the dynamics of my home and how my husband and I can complement each other to make sure that we run our home effectively and smoothly, there will be problems. Somebody will feel drained, and somebody will feel incapable. Now, there was a point that my husband felt like he wasn't doing enough. And there was a point that I felt drained. Now, it took me, us, a while before we could find a balance and then learn to lean on each other. Now, at that point where we did that, a lot of people would not even survive their relationship up to that level before the relationship is over. And some people call it irreconcilable differences, which, of course, if you cannot understand how God has endowed your spouse, how God has endowed you, and how you can both bring that to function together as one, it will be an irreconcilable difference. You wouldn't be able to reconcile that. But God so much helped me that we got to that breaking point, and then we were able to understand each other's ability. Now, I wouldn't ask my husband, for instance, to do what I know doesn't come natural to him. I wouldn't require him of the same. I'll give an example. My husband is very good with investment, like in stocks or things like that. I have tried to get to know it, and I have struggled with it. And this is an honest truth here. But everything about that area of investment, my husband is very good at it. So I said, you know what? You're very good at this. Just bring me on board when there is an investment to be made in this area and carry me along. But I'm not going to try and be the one to be thinking it through or going over it and trying to do it myself. God has helped you to be able to understand that aspect of business, and I'll just leave it to you. So my RI, Roth IRA, and all of this stuff is just an aim to handle. Now that is just one aspect of everything that we deal with every day. I'll take another example. Um, we have two girls. My husband is very good with handling the kids' homework. I cannot for the life of me. And at times I struggle with that. But I realize that when I tell my husband that please the kids have this homework and maybe it's a project they ask them to come up with one project or another. Before I know it, my husband is putting all the materials together and is actually having the idea for the project. So I thought it's like this man is actually very good in this. So let me just let him do it, even though sometimes he doesn't like to. But since he now knows that I let him handle it himself, like this is my responsibility, I don't even argue it with him. So if the kids their assignments are not turned in on time, he will be the one to share the blame. If their teacher is complaining that they didn't turn it, he will be the one to share the blame. So I just allowed him into that. So now there is no, he knows that is his own. I only focus on making sure that, any communication from their school, anything that has to do with keeping up with their teachers and all of that, I deal with that. But when it comes to their assignments, their daddy takes that. That's another aspect. So there are so many things that make your home work, you make communication effective in your home. But I think the key is understanding what each other's abilities are. Everybody has been given different abilities that are unique to them. And like the Bible says, God will not put much more than we can bear on us. Now, the question for you is if you're in a relationship, you're about to go in a relationship, the abilities that you have studied that comes natural to your partner, is that something that is compatible with your long-term goal for a marriage, for a relationship? Is that something that you really need to thrive in your home? Is that something that you can lean on and allow for your spouse to grow in effectively, producing the 100% ability that God has given unto them in that area? Is that something you can support them, help them build on to thrive? That's one question you should ask. Some people are given abilities that they don't need or they might consider not relevant to you. So if somebody has something, oh, that's not what I'm looking for in a relationship, then why are you with the person in the first place? Some people will call it strengths and weaknesses. Maybe you could call it that. But here, I'm looking at it from the biblical point of view where it says that each one has been given the talent depending on their ability. So before you work into that relationship, before you take that next bold step, ask yourself that question. Is this something that I need in this relationship? Don't go into it expecting for a change later, because that's where most people struggle. You go into a relationship thinking that you can change a person from the ability God has naturally endowed them with. Somebody that does not, empathy doesn't come natural to them. Somebody that does not giving doesn't come naturally to them. We have been gifted in all of these things. We give differently. Some people can give their eyes off, yet they are very bad at other things. Some people can, some people are very, very stingy. Oh my God, they have good human relation. So don't try to take the good and ignore the bad, thinking that you'll be able to fix that when you get married, because most times that cannot be fixed. So, what is your level of tolerance? What is your level of tolerance? Is your spouse a giver? Is that something that you really need the most, that you can lean on, especially if you struggle with giving? Is your spouse hands on? Is that something you think you can lean on, especially if you're something you struggle with? I think if you understand or get to this point of relationship, whether you're already in a relationship or whether you're about to, but before you actually take that next bold step, before you call that relationship quits, maybe that might just be one missing link that you're missing out of everything, not identifying what this person's abilities are and expecting the person to give much more than God has endowed this person with. But if you understand or learn that the two talents that this person has been given, the five talents I have been given, is actually supposed to work together to produce 100%. We are supposed to lean into each other and bring the best out of each other. So, can I bring the best out of this person in this area? Can I rely on this person to help me be the best version of myself in this area that God has endowed me with naturally, according to my ability? I feel that those questions would ease a lot of friction in relationship and would even help you put you in a very good mental space to know if this relationship is such that it needs to move on to the next level, or if this relationship is what needs to end here right now. So, how well do you know your partner? How well do you know your spouse? Do you understand, or do you know that they have been given their own talents? They are God given talents which God has naturally endowed them with. Do you know that their talent is different from yours? So, their talents, is it in line with your expectations for the relationship? Is that what you can lean on to? Can you support them to bring out the best versions of themselves in that God given area? Those are the questions we all need to ask ourselves before going into a relationship. And if we're already in a relationship, finding that balance so that we can have a smooth and effective communication in our homes. So, the parable of the talent is very much applicable to relationships, to marriage, because God has endowed everyone differently, and He would not put more on you than you can bear. And don't expect somebody to give much more than they have been endowed with. I think this would help, just as it has helped me. And it has shifted a lot of mindset as perspective for me in my home and in my relationships too. And yes, that is it with this edition of Pastor E Speaks. How well do you know your spouse? I think it's something everyone should think of, sit back on, and reflect on. and answer those questions yourself. It might help you heal a relationship that is already going through a heartbreak, or maybe that is going through near whatever. And it might just be the key. You need to make that bold step, take that bold step, or make that bold decision on your next level of relationship. Until I come your way in my next edition of Pastor E Speaks, bye for now and God bless.